a man must confront one of the most difficult truths he will ever face. A woman's loyalty is not fundamentally to your character, your integrity, or the man you are at your core. Her loyalty is tethered almost exclusively to how you make her feel in any given moment. This emotional anchor is fluid and transient. The initial intensity of a relationship, the butterflies, the constant novelty, the thrilling uncertainty, acts as a powerful drug. But like any drug, the effect diminishes. When life inevitably intrudes with its responsibilities, pressures, and routines, that heightened emotional state quiets down. The dynamic shifts from thrilling to familiar, from passionate to predictable. It is at this precise junction when the emotional euphoria fades and is replaced by the calm of consistency that her focus can begin to subtly shift. She may not even be consciously aware of this internal process. There is rarely a malicious plan or a deliberate decision to seek someone else. Instead, it's a slow, almost imperceptible change in her emotional compass. This behavior is often driven by a deep-seated, instinctual state of constant evaluation. An inherent drive to seek out the best available option she perceives is within her reach. This isn't about logic or a calculated assessment of your value, it's a primal pull. Even when she is genuinely in love and verbally committed, this underlying mechanism remains active, running in the background like a silent program. She compares. She watches. She notices the world around her. If another man enters her orbit, who projects an image of greater strength, more unshakable confidence, higher status, or simply offers a new and different kind of emotional thrill, the foundation of her loyalty can begin to crack. It doesn't require him to be objectively better than you in any measurable way. His mere presence as a source of a novel feeling, a different type of attention, a new kind of challenge, an unfamiliar spark of excitement can be enough to trigger that evaluative instinct. The man she leaves for is often not an upgrade in character, but merely a new stimulus for emotions she craves. The stability and safety you work to provide become reinterpreted, not as virtues, but as evidence of something missing, a lack of the very emotional turbulence that she now mistakes for passion. When the decision to leave is made, it is almost never framed internally or externally as a betrayal of loyalty or a failure of character. To do so would require her to confront a painful truth about her own inconsistency. Instead, the narrative is masterfully reframed as a journey of self-discovery, personal growth, or a noble refusal to settle for anything less than she believes she deserves. This is a crucial psychological mechanism of self-preservation. In reality, she is often simply chasing a new thrill, a different emotional high. It's unable to distinguish between the temporary dopamine-fueled rush of new excitement and the deep, quiet, resilient strength of true commitment. The former is a feeling, the latter is a choice, and she is following the feeling. The most profoundly painful part for a man is the stark realization that he could have given her everything: his unwavering time, his finite resources, his deepest vulnerabilities, and his most profound love, and it would still not have been enough the moment she convinced herself a better, or more accurately, a different emotional experience existed elsewhere. For many, loyalty is tied not to a principled code of honor or a conscious promise, but to the convenience of the moment and the quality of emotional stimulation being provided. The stability and safety you painstakingly built become reinterpreted, not as the bedrock of a lasting partnership, but as evidence of predictability. Predictability is then labeled as boredom, and to a psyche wired for emotional peaks, boredom feels like a kind of emotional death, a slow fading of the self. To escape this feeling, she must rewrite the history of the relationship. This is not a malicious act, but a necessary one for her ego to remain intact. The shared love, the cherished memories, the sacrifices you made, the loyalty you demonstrated, all of it must be downplayed, rationalized away, or erased altogether from the new narrative. She will convince herself and others that she was never truly happy, that she was settling, or that you changed and became someone she no longer recognized. This revisionist history is the cornerstone of her justification. It allows her to walk away from a good man, not as someone who abandoned a commitment, but as a hero in her own story, bravely stepping into her truth. She protects herself from the guilt of betrayal by rebranding it as empowerment, a societal-approved act of courage, while you are left staring at the wreckage of a past that, in her mind, no longer exists as you remember it in the devastating aftermath of being left for another. A man's mind invariably spirals into a tortuous cycle of self-interrogation, relentlessly asking the question, what does he have that I don't? He will inventory his own perceived shortcomings, comparing his job, his physique, his personality, and his achievements against the shadowy figure of his replacement. This is a painful and ultimately futile exercise, because the answer, most often, is nothing. The other man is rarely superior in genuine character, intrinsic value, or his capacity for loving treatment. What he offers is not more, but different. His primary advantage is novelty. The concept of better that she is chasing is not a quantifiable metric of a better life partner, but simply a different energy, a new chemical cocktail of feelings she hasn't experienced lately. This is where a critical confusion takes root. Women often mistake novelty for superiority. The assessment is not a logical one. She does not sit down with a balanced scorecard to ask, is this man truly more valuable, more honorable, or more capable of building a lasting future? Her entire evaluation is filtered through a single overpowering question. Does this man make me feel something new, something intense, something unknown? This feeling could be intrigue, uncertainty, a challenge, or even anxious attraction. In this relentless pursuit of a new emotional state, she becomes convinced she is upgrading, leveling up in the game of life. In reality, she is merely resetting. The same inevitable cycle of initial thrill, followed by familiarization and eventual disappointment. The newness will always wear off. The law of diminishing returns on emotional excitement is immutable. This dynamic explains the perplexing and painful phenomenon where a woman will often leave a stable, devoted, and reliable man for one who offers drama, unpredictability, and chaos. She does not consciously seek out a worse life, but her emotional compass misinterprets the turbulence. The stable man provides peace, which can be misread as a lack of passion. The unpredictable man provides chaos, which is mistaken for passion and intensity. The roller coaster of highs and lows feels more alive to her than the steady, calm plane of consistency. It doesn't matter that the new man's passion is unsustainable or that his chaos is a precursor to instability. What matters in that moment is the intensity of the feeling itself. The fleeting high of that new emotion, however shallow its source, possesses the power to override years of demonstrated loyalty, shared history, and profound devotion in her mind. The comparison is not between two men, but between a familiar feeling and a new one, and the new one always wins, regardless of its source or its merit. Her decision to leave, though framed as a reflection of your lack, is in truth a stark revelation of her own inability to find contentment and anchor herself in something more substantial than a fleeting emotion. A man's fundamental worth is an intrinsic reality built through his actions, his principles, and his character. It is not defined or diminished by the shifting winds of a woman's feelings. To internalize her departure as a verdict on your value is to hand her a power she never rightfully earned. Therefore, the only strategic and dignified move is to refuse to play her game entirely. This means no competing, no begging, no grand gestures to prove your value to someone who has already decided based on feeling that you lack it. Engaging in a battle for conditional loyalty is a fool's errand. You are trying to win a race where the finish line is constantly moved by the judge's mood. Your real power, the ultimate form of reclaiming your agency, lies in a simple, profound act. Letting her go, not with resentment, but with a quiet, unshakable acceptance. You must grant her the freedom to chase the illusion she believes is real. While she is distracted by the glitter of novelty, your focus must turn inward, to the unglamorous, disciplined work of building an unshakable reality for yourself. This is the critical redirection of energy. All the love, focus, time, and devotion you poured into her must now be channeled into your own foundation, your purpose, your discipline, your mission, your physical and mental health. You are not being discarded. You're being unburdened. This betrayal, as agonizing as it is not your downfall. It is your unexpected liberation. It is the gift of a specific acute pain that forges a stronger, more resilient version of you. It is the forced absence of her presence that finally compels you to find yourself, to rely on yourself, and to build a life that is for you first and foremost. This process transforms you from someone who sought validation from an external source to someone who is self-validated. You stop living for her approval and start living for your own standards. The man who emerges from this fire is not the same one who entered it. He's calmer, more focused, and possesses a gravity that comes from knowing he faced a profound loss and chose to build from it rather than break. Her leaving was the necessary catalyst, the brutal but effective push you would never have given yourself. The energy that was once spent managing her emotions or fearing her departure is now free, and it becomes the fuel for your own empire. You begin to understand that your story was never about keeping her. It was about who you were destined to become. And her exit was simply a pivotal scene in that larger narrative. The relentless pursuit of an external better is a fundamentally endless chase, a horizon that perpetually recedes. In a world of billions, there will always be a man with more wealth, a more sculpted physique, a more charming wit, or a more thrillingly unpredictable nature. If a woman's sense of loyalty is conditional and depends on the impossible task of finding the absolute pinnacle option, she is doomed to a cycle of perpetual dissatisfaction. She will wander from relationship to relationship, convinced each new man is the upgrade she seeks, only to eventually find the same familiar emptiness waiting for her once the newness fades. The flaw is not in the men she finds, but in the search. It is based on an emotional craving rather than a values-based choice. And you, by refusing to participate in this cycle, by recognizing the game is rigged, will have saved yourself from a lifetime of anxiety and wasted effort. This cycle is inevitable because the initial excitement, the dopamine rush of a new connection, is a chemical state that is biologically designed to be temporary. It cannot be sustained. The man she left you for will eventually become familiar. His specific flaws, once hidden by the glow of novelty, will become visible and irritating. Thrilling uncertainty will become unsettling instability. The passionate chaos will become exhausting drama. The restlessness she felt with you will return because the source was never you, it was within her. She will be forced to confront the reality that she didn't actually upgrade her life. She merely restarted the same emotional cycle with a different person, destined to arrive at the same point of discontent. By the time this truth dawns on her, you will have undergone your own transformation. The pain of her departure, once a raw wound, will have been metabolized into fuel. You will have channeled that energy into becoming a man of such substance, clarity, and purpose that you generate your own gravity. You will have become the standard, not through words, but through unwavering action and self-respect. When regret eventually consumes her hand, it often does, it will be a quiet echo from a shore you have long since left behind. It will not matter. You will understand on a bone-deep level that her leaving was the necessary catalyst for your own awakening. We will see that the man she left needed that fracture to become the man he was meant to be. Your story was never about her presence or absence. It was always about your own evolution. Her betrayal was not the ending. It was the turning point that forced you to stop living for a woman's approval and start building a life so compelling that you become the prize. The ultimate victory is not in her regret, but in your profound indifference to it. You will be too far ahead, too focused on your own horizon, too defined by your own mission to ever look back and wonder what she thinks. You will have found a freedom and a sense of self that no fleeting emotion from another person can ever give or take away.